Welcome back to Hall of Fame College Football's Sooner Magic Podcast Live. I'm your host, Jason Watkins, and if you love college football, you're definitely in the right place. So before you forget, smash that red subscriber button, like our videos, and don't forget to ring the bell so you don't miss one moment of Hall of Fame College Football. Welcome into the show, everybody. We're going to talk about a few things, kind of go over some stuff that happened over the weekend. Been pretty busy with some other stuff, just doing some kind of, I guess, be housekeeping, if you want to call it that. First, before we do that, I want to start off by sending out prayers and thoughts to the Skeen family who lost their 4-month-old child in the devastating tornadoes that hit Sulphur, Oklahoma on Sunday. And also prayers out to all of the Sulphur community that really suffered a lot of devastation through the tornadoes. 3 tornadoes hit within an hour on Sunday night, just basically ripping most of the town apart. Little small town there, south, obviously, of Norman in Oklahoma. Like to send our prayers out to Omaha, Nebraska, who also went through a lot on Saturday with tornadoes, and all of those affected around both states from these tragedies. As an aside, I'm going to address this, and pretty much I'm going to address this one time, which is a group of Missouri fans. Some of the tweets that they made both Sunday and Monday, in which they mocked and cheered the destruction caused by, both before and after the tornadoes. With some even mentioning things like, they hope that it hit the stadium at Norman, things like that. I'm not going to repeat everything that was said because, quite honestly, it's disgusting and makes you about want to throw up. In the aftermath of those 3 tornadoes that ripped through the small town of Sulphur, completely devastating really the entire town, along with apparently numerous and widespread destruction in Ardmore also. All I really want to say is that as fans, we all probably cross a line from time to time, particularly on Twitter. I mean, it's a place for that kind of stuff, right? You get a lot of stupidity from even Oklahoma fans. I mean, let's be real about it. But I mean, especially when it pertains to the rivals, Texas, Oklahoma State, lately Missouri, you get a lot of back and forth, and it even gets kind of ugly, and sometimes it gets a little gross. If you think about it, I mean, Twitter really sucks, just to be honest. But what we saw from Oklahoma State fans and even Texas fans in the wake of these tornadoes was actually what you would expect, and that's that this stuff gets set aside. The athletics, the BS, it gets set aside because we're talking about real life now, and people losing family members and a baby, and it's awful, and there's a line that sports fandom has to stop, and decency should come in. And I'll admit that I'm one of the probably the worst on Twitter when it comes to messing around, going back and forth with Texas and Okie Light fans and lately Mizzou fans. But in this situation, it's hard to understand that, and it kind of tells you how very little Mizzou has had to deal with winning or being successful, that whatever is going on in the back and forth between the two schools over Caden Green or whatever else is happening, that they can't leave it at that. I mean, there were things being said about, as I said, blow up the state and that kind of, I'm not going to repeat all of it, but it went too far and there were too many people that were doing it. There was one of those people, and I guess they got kicked off of Twitter at one point, but they made the excuse that Oklahoma fans would do the same thing. I seem to remember that when the Joplin tornado hit in 2011, a lot of people in the state of Oklahoma were there for weeks helping with that cleanup and rebuild and everything else. Volunteering their time doing that kind of stuff. Because sports don't matter in that instance. They just don't. They just don't. I mean, all I'm going to say is that as a tweet from an Oklahoma little brother at Oklahoma State said, when tornadoes hit, we're just Okies. We're just family. And that's it. And that's it. You heard a lot of the same kind of stuff coming out of Texas. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I think that this is all Missouri fans, because I think it's a small portion of them. If it's 1 or 2 or 10, it's too many. But this is a small portion of that fan base that did this, that said these things. But I would tell you that nobody's going to forget this around Oklahoma. And it just feels like basic human decency. The problem that I had the most, it wasn't necessarily that the people said what they had to say. It was that there was a lack of people from that fan base correcting your own, The Oklahoma fans do that a lot. We've got our fair share of wackos that go way past the line, a la Caden Green's dad and all that aftermath of his transfer after the season. But when shit like that happens, Oklahoma fans that are, people don't stand for it. When people die or, people suffer through hardships like that, it transcends sports. And that's what's most disappointing for me. That's what's most disappointing for me. In the end, it's just a game. That's all I really have to say about it. It's a game, guys. It's a game. But I'll tell you what. I think that you're going to see that game on November 10th, wherever no matter if it's in Columbia or not. There's probably it's going to mean a little more. Whatever. Anyway, kind of want to move past that. We're also going to talk a little bit today about the commitment from 4-star cornerback Cortland Guillory to Oklahoma over the weekend. The latest on top defensive line target Dominic Williams finishing up his visits to potential destinations coming out of TCU in the transfer portal. Why I feel like Oklahoma can still be optimistic that he will make Norman home, and some reasons that he may not. Then there's news about leaders of college sports being involved in discussions to reach a legal settlement that would likely lay out the framework for sharing revenue with athletes in a future NCAA business model. This, of course, coming from Pete Thamel and Dan Murphy of ESPN in a report yesterday. And then, hey, another winner for the weekend would be Baker Mayfield. The NFL draft saw the Bucs further invest in their newly signed franchise quarterback with the team's NFL draft strategy and their selections. We'll talk a little bit more about that in just a bit. All right. Thanks, everybody, for coming in. Hey there. Bishop Frank, Nelio. Oh, super chat from Nelio. Thank you. May God bless all of those who were affected in the past weekend storms. Good morning, Jason, and everyone here. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Glad to see everybody in here. Chicken Rhyming Lemon, Bishop Frank, Sooner Legend. Greg, how we doing? And then, of course, thank you so much as well. We are excited to have everybody in here. Yeah, really hoping that it's Kimberly K. I was like, I do not want to get her name wrong and say that. I thought it was that, but I was making sure. How are you doing, Kimberly? I haven't seen you in a while, and you threw me off with your new tagline. I like it, but it threw me off a little bit. All right. Yeah, man, I'm off my game a little bit today. Let's talk a little bit about Oklahoma. Now, look, I think that we're still the biggest thing for Oklahoma fans is really it being in hope of seeing what kind of happens with Dominic Williams out of TCU. I think that there's still a pretty good shot. I know that a lot of people were a little concerned. You should be. But there's a couple of reasons that I feel like this almost feels pretty good. First and foremost, you had an offer to his brother that was his first offer over the weekend. He seemed very excited about that. You know, tweeted OU DNA, things like that. And then the other trips that he's made to places aside from Texas, he went to Texas. I believe he may have been in Oregon over the weekend. He was supposed to be. I don't know if he made that trip or not, but I think he might have. Then he was also at Mizzou in Columbia. And then yesterday he was at LSU. It seems like he's finished up. Maybe he could have another few, right? Nelio, what's up, man? Thank you again for the super chat. It seems like though he's finished up, and from everything that we've heard from most of the insiders and stuff that really have followed this recruiting closely, right? George Stoya, I think, has done a good. Mr. Friend, thank you for coming in, man. George Stoya and the guys at On 3 Sooner Scoop have done they've probably been the closest and had the most detail when it comes to this recruitment. Along with, and to be honest with you, guys like PG's done a good job too, kind of keeping up with all this. I think one of the reasons, the first reason I feel like is I know that the Oklahoma collective for NIL money, and which is what this is coming down to, I think, in some aspects. Some aspects it may not be, right? But they were doing, from what I hear, and I mean, I don't know the number for sure, but it's as high as any offer they've made. And I think that came from from what I understand, that may have come from Gabe Eichert. Seems like he said that on his show. Anyway, it was high, and he acted like he knew what it was. I've heard rumors about what it was. I don't know for sure, so I don't want to say it. But if it is what I think it may be, wow, it's a lot. But apparently that's about what it costs these days to get one of these guys. Now, he stayed from Friday through Sunday through the spring game, went to a Thunder game, spent a bunch of time with Coach Venables, Coach Bates. They did a bang-up job in trying to land that commitment. And according to George Stoya and those guys, he may have wanted to commit. And I think his mother may have wanted to commit. And it sounds like it was another family member, maybe an uncle, that is dead set on him making all his visits. Okay, cool. The good news is he's made all these visits. He has not given a yes or a commitment to them either, at least not publicly anyway, right? Now, of course, Texas is they brought out all the stops. I know he stayed there at least 2 days, maybe. They had a Lamborghini there for him, to drive, and, all kinds of stuff that, they do what they do at Texas. Thing is, they probably need him a little more than Oklahoma does, even with their hemorrhaging on that defensive line. Not to say that Oklahoma doesn't need him as well. But you got Lole that's already coming in from Louisville, Jeremiah Lole. He looks really good. He's probably a bit more of a depth piece, whereas Dominic Williams is probably an impact piece along with depth, right? My concern would be, well, first, let me say why I feel like this might be not so bad is that I feel like when you start looking at this and you think about Brent Venables', let's call it patience. I think that he gets to a part where he really he would have probably punted on this already if he didn't think they had a pretty good shot. And there's a couple of other guys out there. We're talking this is the last day of April. There's a couple of guys out there that it doesn't feel like, obviously this is the last day you can go into the portal. The portal closes tonight at midnight. But there's a couple of guys out there that it doesn't sound like they may have been in contact with them, but I don't know if they've given offers to those kids out of Michigan State. I don't know how I feel about that, though. Part of me says that's great because maybe that means that maybe they got a quiet verbal from him. Silent verbal. Maybe. I know that, in seeing that tweet, and it was cool how happy they were about his little brother getting his first offer. He's a 2027 recruit. Very cool moment. They've had a video about it. It was cool to see. And they looked excited. It looked like, they're happy, and that he put in the tweet, OUDNA, which is cool. It doesn't necessarily mean that either one of them are coming to Oklahoma, but it was a nice touch there. And apparently the kid, man, as athletic as this guy is, and his brother's a pretty good sized kid for being, a sophomore. So it's kind of exciting. But, and yes, Bishop Frank, I love this. Relationships. Soul mission are the X factors. Right. I think in this case, money has a lot to do with it too. It's chase a bag, and you can't blame him for it. But it sounds to me like I hold out some hope that he is happy and excited about Oklahoma. Okay. Happy and excited about Oklahoma. I don't know how he feels about Texas. I think that they're the two front runners. He finished up at LSU, yesterday, I think, or he may still be there today. But I expect, PG said on his show a little earlier that he thought you would probably know something within the week. Myself, the second he's done with these, and if it's today or if it was last night, I think you need to give him 24 hours. And you need to make a move here, just for the simple fact that, look, if you don't already know for sure what's going to happen, or you don't need to readjust what you offer because LSU is a little desperate for guys. I know Texas is, and like, JB says here, Texas defense isn't as ready-made as OU's. If he's looking to make a bigger one-year splash. Well, I don't know that. I think his 1 year, he would make a 1 year splash here. I think he's probably 1 or 1A at that tackle spot, nose tackle spot. He's a big get. I'm not going to say that he's better than Dejon Terry, but I think he might be. That's where I'm at. I think that if he comes in and does something big there, but he could also stand out at Texas. He could also stand out at LSU. These are programs that are in good shape as well. We've talked a bunch about what I think about Texas overall, and I think that that's definitely their biggest need is along the D line. When you lose two guys in the first few rounds of the draft, and Sweat and Murphy, and a lot of stuff has fallen through on potential transfer portal targets with concern to that D line as well. They're kind of in that situation where they need it. Their secondary is not very good. You better be getting pressure on the quarterback. And as we continue to hear, it's a line of scrimmage league in the SEC, and they're ready for it, but Oklahoma supposedly isn't. I think that's a bunch of crap. I think there's definitely questions about, hey, Esther, what's up? I think there's definitely questions about whether or not the Oklahoma line outside of Norman is going to be ready. I think, again, that the addition at center, the SMU kid, big, huge, right? I think that you probably saw some things out of the other guys that were in a good situation during the spring. Look, I loved what we saw from Joshua Bates in the spring game because we kept hearing how he was getting killed. But we saw him really step up in that game and do some things that you didn't really expect. Even if our SMU guy comes in and takes the center spot, he's got a lot of experience. He's talented. But I've always looked at Bates as one of those guys. He's a fighter, man, and he's strong, big. You've got some other guys in there that you might see step in too, but maybe at guard. I think that they have some more options in some other places, right? In any event, I feel like it's not as big a question for us along that offensive line. I think the defensive line is really, really strong. Even though I think you're going to depend, I think that no matter what happens with Dominic Williams, you're going to depend a lot on freshmen there because they're just that good. They're just that good. When you look at Jaden Jackson, David Stone, they're impressive already. They still have the entire summer to develop and fall. I believe that, yes, competitive depth is key. And that's what you're looking to see what happens is that everybody realizes that the depth is what is important. You got to have, listen, if you just end up with Lole, that's probably good to go, even depth-wise. It is helpful for depth-wise. But if you were to get an injury or two and you don't get as much out of some of the players that you're expecting, some of the upperclassmen, second and third year guys that are coming back, if you don't get as much out of them, it could leave you a little thin. But I think that you are getting a lot of, from what we saw from G-Baby Grayson Halton, he looked great. Devon Sears was impressive to me, really impressive to me. And, and then you have the transfer. Somebody help me with this name. It was on the tip of my tongue just now. Played really good. We were talking about it with Barry from Barry and Mac show last week on Friday. I still think they're in good shape, right? I still think they're in good shape. But, I look forward to what we see, and I certainly think that, I'm keeping those receipts, all these folks that have said, picking Oklahoma to finish 10th and stuff in the SEC in year one. I think that's hilarious, but it is what it is. But, yeah, listen, I think that this is a big get if you can get it. It's important. If you don't, then you move on. You move on and you continue. You've got some guys coming in. You've got some guys coming into this recruiting class as well. At least two guys that right now that it's looking like you have commitments from two D-line guys. Crystal Ball's on another one. And then there's some other ones out there that theoretically you could get after them. and probably pick them up. A lot of that is going to depend, I think, on how you play in year one. I think it is. So it would be great if you got a guy like Williams and you really dominated on that D line, and you showed that it's not just Georgia or LSU that can play well in the trenches, or Alabama. It'd be great to do that and show that you're better in the trenches than Texas, horns down. Yeah. What do you got? No team will have a brighter spotlight on them this season than OU. Not with that schedule. You know what? That's a good point, JB. I think this is a good point. You start looking at what that schedule looks like. While Texas got the training wheel schedule, Oklahoma is going to be playing a lot of marquee games. A lot of marquee games. It started their very first SEC game against Tennessee. Marquee game. Josh Heupel in the house. They finished 7th last year at 4-4, but they've got one of those top level quarterbacks in Nico Iamaleava as well. So it's a big matchup between Jackson Arnold and him. Obviously, again, Josh Heupel coming back to Norman for the first time in a while. And then, hey man, they're good on the defensive side too. That was I was most impressed by the way that they, number one, ran the ball last year, and number two, their defensive line strength was pretty damn good. So that is marquee. Game 2 might not be too late for Auburn at that point. And you start looking at what Auburn is, you expect and hope that they go over there and win. But as we hear, it's one of the tough places in the conference to go play. And it's your first road game in the SEC, new experience. You got to hope that they can go out there and win it. I think there's probably a possibility that one could be a loss. Again, another marquee game, though. You've got home games against Tennessee, South Carolina. Then you got Alabama towards the end of the season, second to the last game. On the road at LSU, that's going to be a marquee game. The on the road at Missouri game, surely going to be a marquee game, because everybody's picking them to finish very high. A lot of people have them going to the playoff. I think that's just ridiculous. I was looking up for all the jibber jabber that you get out of Missouri. There's 6 wins in the conference. They went 6-2 in 23. There's 6. The opponents that they beat in those 6 were combined 13, 14, and 34 in conference play. And let me make sure exactly what that is. I've got it written down here. Yeah. 32-42 overall, 10 games under 500 for Missouri's conference opponents that they won against, and 14-34 in the SEC. It is what it is with those guys. It is what it is with those guys. I think that they fall on their face. I think that you see some things out of probably some of those teams, Eli Drinkwitz has been putting billboards up in Arkansas, recruiting for them, for Mizzou. But now that Bobby Petrino's there, they've got a quarterback that looks like he's really good too. He was very good at Boise. Bobby seems to get the best out of quarterbacks. Always. He always has. So there's a possibility. I think they could lose that one. I don't see them beating Texas A&M. I think that Texas A&M's again. That's a home game for A&M. I think if A&M can, I think they're definitely going to be in a better place this year with Mike Elko. They looked pretty good in that spring game to me, and they're strong on the defensive line. I just don't think that Mizzou, look, again, I just told you what the record was against the teams they beat last year in the SEC. They lost to the 2 best teams that they played. They had a win over Tennessee. That was their best win in the league. Tennessee was 4-4. They lost to Georgia. They lost to LSU. They lost to LSU at home. You know, so it is what it is. Anyway, Ole Miss would be another one. There's another, according to the pundits in the SEC and nationally, Ole Miss is, they expect them to go. I mean, I heard SEC Mike the other day truly talking about Mississippi State being, or Ole Miss, not Mississippi State, Ole Miss being a national championship contender, not just a playoff contender, a national championship contender. Okay. That one's on the road as well for Oklahoma. Tough game. I'm going to repeat this one more time. The next time that Lane Kiffin wins a big one, be the first time. If Oklahoma's in position to go to the playoff at that point when they play, that's a big game. He beat LSU last year, but they didn't have a defense. They hung with Georgia for a little while, then they got blown out. I still think that, it is what it is. Yeah. Neilio. Yes. Well, anyway. Yeah, so, look, I think that you've got opportunities there. Now, thank you, Bishop Frank. Renew your membership. Oklahoma strong, family first. Absolutely. Yeah, Neilio's got to be careful there, Esther. Wifey, snatch him up. Let's see what else we're going to talk about. Portland Guillory, the 4-star cornerback from the Houston area, Sulphur Springs, I believe it is, commits to Oklahoma over the weekend as well. Huge get for OU. This is another example of the difference in the night and day difference between Brent Venables, Lincoln Riley. Number one, there is an actual intention of going after just loading up your roster with as many studs on both sides of the ball, but putting real effort into the defensive side that we haven't seen in Oklahoma in a long time. And they keep loading up there. I wanted to kind of go through, actually, let me do that real quick. But something, we had Mike Boganowski Sr. on the show last week, and that was cool. But you start thinking about some of these guys that are freshmen, sophomores, incoming freshmen, redshirt freshmen, and you start looking in the secondary in particular, and it's just, it's unreal. It's unreal. I think I've got that roster here. Maybe. Stand by, folks. Okay, so let's go to all right, so man, this should be a better way to do this. Let me go to this one, depth chart. Just updated today, as a matter of fact. Okay, so between the Cheetahs, right now you're looking at Cheetah, Kendall Dobie, Desan McCullough, cornerbacks, left cornerback, Gentry Williams, Kanai Walker, Jacoby Johnson. Strong safety, Billy Bowman, Peyton Bowen, Reggie Powers III, who is a freshman. Free safety, Robert Spears Jennings, Eric McCarty, Jaden Hardy, a freshman. Woody Washington at right corner, Des Malone, he is a transfer in from San Diego State, along with Makari Vickers. And now, again, I wouldn't say that I would not say that this is just a for sure thing when it comes to where they are in this lineup. I have a hard time believing that Peyton Bowen won't play free safety in front of Robert Spears Jennings. That's just me. Because he's going to play somewhere, right? But this is what Sportskeeda has him as of right now, and that's fine. But you're looking at these guys. Now you add into that those corners. Obviously, you lost a good one in Josiah Wagner, who, by the way, another weekend winner was Josiah Wagner. He committed to Cal Berkeley, which was quick, but good for him. I'm excited for him. That's closer to back where he's from, up in the Washington area. Obviously, Northern California is where Cal's out in the Bay Area. So excited for Josiah, get an opportunity to get out there and really show out in the ACC. He'll have an opportunity there. Hey, what's up, Coyote? Nothing on Williams just yet. No. All right. NIL there. I don't know. What I would tell you is, and kind of getting back to that before we go too much further on these recruiting stuff, is that, look, to me, from what I could tell from reading it, is that it looks like you're going to see finally revenue share, which is what we've been talking about, right? So this last little round of transfer portal craziness is probably part of the negotiations on what they're going to do and the settlement that they're going to come up with. Now, part of that will have to do with that. I want to say it's the former players and their lawsuit. I forget I think maybe Brown versus NCAA or whatever it is, but that it's going to be one of those deals where they're going to pay in a lot to these former players that weren't allowed to get paid in any way. You go back to some of the players that, the Rhett Bomar situation, that makes that look kind of, crazy. The fact that the Heisman Trust gave Reggie Bush his Heisman back this past week, I was fine with that. But, this is a lot of writing on the wall that you're going to have to start paying these guys. And if you can do a revenue share of some kind, to me, again, the way I feel about that is you can kind of get rid of this. It's a culture of cheating in the NCAA, and whether it's football or basketball or anything. These revenue sports, those really good players. You go back and think about SMU back in the 80s, right? Eric Dickerson, Craig, what's his name? They're all driving those freaking 280Zs, gold, and all that stuff. They were blatantly doing it. Oklahoma got in trouble during the same time, right? It kind of ended up costing Coach Switzer his job at the end, right? Craig James, yeah. Such a fun guy to be around. I remember all that stuff that happened with his son Adam at Texas Tech whenever I was covering Texas Tech. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, it would get rid of the broke Oklahoma haters. Yeah, whatever, man. I think that that's way overblown when it comes to that. Now, NIL collectives, that doesn't mean they go away. I don't know how this works, and I don't know exactly. I think that I want to get Bomber, one of those guys. Maybe we get them in tonight for the live stream and talk a lot more about that. What I would tell you is I think, to me, as I was saying a minute ago, I think that this leads you in a direction of less under the table shady dealings and more you're going to get paid this no matter where you are. If you choose a school, which is why I really love the way the Oklahoma recruits, is because, as Bishop Frank was talking about, it's relationship based first. Okay. I like that. It makes me happy to know that, because if once you get these guys in now, you can slow down some of this portal stuff. I was watching USCJ this morning whenever I finished up with my job. And he was talking about that they lost another one. I mean, how crazy it is to him. And that one of the guys that had left in the portal right after the season and was going to Alabama is now back in the portal. And Ty talked about him yesterday. So he may be going back to USC. This is this hopping back and forth. You saw the same thing that happened, of course, with the kid from what's his name? The lineman that went to Iowa and then went right back to Alabama. Got $100,000, didn't do a thing while he was there. You know, these things definitely have to change a little bit. Now, again, I'm not going to sit here and blame players for this, because this is directly a responsibility of the adults that have been adults for a long time and have been in charge of the system that is in place. Not one of these players is responsible for a single rule. Not one. So miss me with players' greed, blah, 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 blah. Should have paid them a long time ago. You should have had a better plan in place for when eventually somebody came down on you and you lost a court case. That's an NCAA problem. They've got to, I don't know why the NCAA is still involved, to be quite honest with you. When your member institutions are taking you to court over NIL stuff, I think you've outlived your usefulness, period, when it comes to the NCAA. So that's where I'm at on that. I'd like the idea of some kind of rev share. I think it clears some things up. Now, you're probably always going to have somebody that under the table pays more than they're supposed to or whatever. And I don't know that, and I'm not saying that you have to limit any of that. But NIL, what NIL is not what it's intended to be. Name, image, and likeness, it's essentially, when you start thinking name, image, and likeness, it's endorsements. They're using this as a pay-for-play deal rather than you getting endorsements. And endorsements, you can make whatever you need, whatever you want. If you're one of those guys that's a Heisman contender and you can get a national endorsement deal or a big deal from big car dealership or whatever, you know what I mean? A big local company wants you to endorse their product, their services, and it's actually pay for not just being on the field, but your influence, and you help their business, and that's, quid pro quo. That's really not what's happening right now. Some of it is, but that's not the good side of it. No. There's a lot of tampering that's been happening. We know that. Hell, Lincoln Riley's been known to do that for a while, right? Drink, apparently doing the same thing. A lot of coaches doing the same shit. And you can't even necessarily blame them at this point. It's too easy. It's too easy. And when you're a coach at one of these schools, your job security is only, particularly like in the SEC, it's based on you winning a lot of damn football games, which means that you got to win a lot of those recruits. So without any kind of guidelines, that word guardrails, which I hate that word, but without any kind of rules in place, then what do you expect? What do you expect? It's good to hear that, apparently. And hey, listen, I'm glad that some of these guys that made a lot of money in the past for these schools and never got anything for it are going to get this settlement, it sounds like, and get some money for themselves as well. Look, I know that people don't want to think of it as an NFL model. I really don't. But I think that this will help you kind of slot it as to, look, if you're a top 100 player, you're going to make more than a 3-star guy. But there's going to be a slotted salary system that they have to share with you, right? That's something they've been talking about doing anyway, the SEC and the Big Ten. I think that they've been ready to kind of get out in front of this anyway. From what the report said on the one that we saw last night on Twitter, and the report coming from Thamel and the other guy there at ESPN, is that, you know, the Supreme Court is again kind of coming down hard on them. And you've seen the NCAA taking it on the chin in court for a year, at least. So it is what it is. Yeah, Caden Proctor is who we were talking about. Yep. Again, you can't really blame these guys. And sometimes if you are not getting what you're expected, I mean, some of these guys going in the portal. First off, I want to say that a lot of these guys going into the portal, it's not necessarily that they're jumping ship. It could be that they're being pushed out the door. Pushed out the door. Hey, we'll help you find another spot, but you got to leave. Even the guys that, I mean, look, you've seen a lot of this at USC. A lot of these guys are coming in. They just came in like January, and now they're gone again. You've seen a lot of that around the country. But what I would tell you is, some of these schools are the biggest offenders, according to some of these players, of not giving out what they promise when they get you there. So, you know, and USC definitely being one of the bigger ones that has done that as well. So surprises me that it doesn't surprise me that you're seeing this stuff kind of head in this direction. We expected to see it coming before. I've expected this for a while. I'll try to get Bomber and those guys. I know they have a show. Maybe I can get them to come on a little late after they finish. They go a little earlier than I do on Tuesdays anyway. So maybe I can get them to come in and kind of give some perspective. I think that the Big 12 Mafia show and College Football Mafia, they call it, they've got two different shows, but they are at the forefront of realignment talk on YouTube, period. It is their bread and butter. They talk to the smartest guys in the room when it comes to that. They've got guests that know exactly what's going on. Yes, I'll definitely be on Neely. Again, I think that that's going to happen. All right. Going back to, yeah, but all right. So Guillory, let's take a look real quick at now the On3 rankings, because Oklahoma is definitely surging. Boom, boom, boom. Team rankings. So Oklahoma in the On3 rankings moved up. Doesn't look like they moved up. Yeah, I don't like their rankings at all. I'm a fan of their content, but see, they have him overall as a 3-star, 439 in the country. Let's look again. I mean, but here's the thing. Everybody else is talking about. Let's look at the guys that were really in the running for Cortland Guillory. It was Texas, Tennessee, Oklahoma. A&M was also in the mix. UCF. He has offers from obviously Oklahoma, Texas, Tennessee, Texas A&M, UCF, TCU. A bunch of offers, actually. I mean, he had a bunch of offers. So, but you're talking, 4 SEC schools that were high on this kid. I don't like the ranking so much because every other place that I've seen, it's been a high 4-star. Let's look at 247. Look at the composites. No. So Guillory, yeah, they've got him as a 4-star in the 247 composite. He's a hard commit at this point. 6 foot, 175. They've got him as a safety, but I've been hearing nothing but cornerback. You also have Malik Hawkins is another guy that's been committed for a while. This is another guy that's probably woefully underrated, as his dad was an NFL defensive back. His brother, of course, the backup quarterback as a freshman here at Oklahoma. Marcus Wimberly, we talked a lot about him. Unbelievable 4-star. He has shot up the rankings tremendously since first committing to Oklahoma about a month or so ago. You also have, obviously, again, talking defense, Trent Wilson out of Maryland, Upper Marlboro, Maryland. He's a 4-star, top 150 in the country. Then you had Trene Washington, who we believe is probably going to be, he's going to fit in as one of those defensive backs as well. 6'3", 195. He could also, I mean, you could see him possibly playing linebacker, but to me, I believe from what I hear, I think he's a safety. So there's another big time safety. Cortland Guillory, safety or corner. Malik Hawkins, probably safety or corner as well. He's a 6 foot, 180-pound kid as well. Look, same with Marcus James, I believe is probably going to be a linebacker from what we're hearing. You got another, Kamori Moore. We hadn't talked a lot about him, but he's from Lee Summit North. He's been committed to Oklahoma for a while, right? For a while. So to me, when you start, and if you look at some of these guys, let's say Hawkins, Guillory, and like Trene Washington out of Carl Albert, it almost feels like you're going to see some. I mean, you see maybe Cheetah there, safety, corner. It almost feels like these guys are positionless in this secondary, and it really does feel that way. And you start looking at what Peyton Bowen is. When you think about the NBA, you've seen the NBA really turn into like a positionless game, right? You don't have certain sets where, the big guy's always on the inside. You got a bunch of those big dudes that can shoot and dribble and do all this stuff, and they're getting more and more prevalent in that league. It's almost what I feel like is going on this football team in that secondary and a lot of those places, because you have a lot of these exotic packages where you've got multiple defensive backs in the game, right? Not just 4 or whatever. So, yeah, we won't. Good stuff. It is a championship mindset, yes. I just think this is one of those deals where you're looking at a deal where, hey, what's up, Hankster? He needed that Bama or Georgia offer to get another star. Yeah, I agree. I would agree with that. Rhyming. Really, bro? make me laugh. That's fucking funny. Anyway, you're seeing a lot more of these guys that it feels like they could play either. And they're physical like that. Kendall Dobie comes in as the number 1 JUCO corner last season and ends up playing more cheetah, and feels like he could do kind of a little bit of both. Big hitter, good cover guy, but a big hitter, right? I like where they're at. And I mean, with these freshmen, as I was looking over that stuff, I mean, guys, look at this stuff. The freshman guys that they have right now, Michael Boganowski at safety. Reggie Powers III is also a freshman. Jaden Hardy, also a freshman. You still got Jacoby and Makari, who Jacoby Johnson was just outside the top 100 as a recruit. Makari was like number 60 in the country in the top 100 as well. Those are both cornerbacks, but they're also pretty good sized guys that are aggressive and can hit. Got a lot of speed, right? You keep hearing lots of really good things that came out of the spring about those guys. Probably a lot of the reason that you saw Josiah once he got hurt, you start falling down that depth chart. That's where you started seeing the writing on the wall. You're going to continue to see these things. Lewis Carter, obviously when you get to the linebacker position, Lewis Carter, a lot of speed. You could see him even kind of, and they've talked a lot about, guys like San Lomosigo being a cheetah type of guy as well. So there's a lot of opportunities in a lot of different places that you're going to see these guys kind of do their thing. I'm excited, man. I'm excited about it. A lot of bigger, taller and a little heavier, but a lot of speed. And then as we saw, Boganowski was popping. Reggie Powers will pop you. You didn't hear a ton about Jaden Hardy, but I think Barry was kind of right on track when he was on the show on Friday night, saying that it's because his receiver wasn't getting open when he was in. His guy wasn't getting open. So you didn't see a lot of what was going on. But to have a freshman, be the leader in tackles, and younger Michael Boganowski, it's big. It's big. Saw a lot of good things out of freshman guys and redshirt freshmen or sophomores, the young guys, the guys that they're bringing in here. This roster is almost completely turned over. When you add in that you got Billy Bowman coming back and you've got Danny Stutzman coming back, Kip and obviously Kobe McKenzie, even, as we said, Jaron Canick, these are guys that have been here and they have the experience, right? But Ethan Downs, Ethan, Woody Washington, Danny Stutzman, and Billy are the last of the guys that are left from those from the Lincoln Riley era. The last of them. That's it. The offense is completely turned over. Gentry Williams comes back healthy. Another big hitter, great cover guy. This secondary is in great shape. Texas wishes it was anywhere close. Anywhere close. So there you go on that. I'm excited for competitive depth as well. Yeah, I'm not a big WWE guy there, Ryman. Just not. Recruiting athletes, not positions. Yeah, and recruiting a certain type too. It's not just athletes. These guys all got that dog in them. Like to hit, little violent streak in them. Not soft as baby like USC. Love it. They all seem to have that same trait that they want to knock you on your ass. And this is what you need. It's football. And it's the SEC. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. All right, finally, we're going to jump out of here. Been going right at about an hour. But last thing I want to kind of talk about. Look, I know a lot of people were pissed off at Barry Trammell this weekend. And I didn't agree with his column, by the way. Not going to get a ton into what he said, but suffice to say it was along the lines of when Oklahoma was ready for the SEC, which was back in, according to him, 2017. Right when Stoops left. They had the guys that were able to play in this, again, line of scrimmage league, the SEC. Okay. It's almost to me that Barry Trammell feels like he That's not what they have. That they're not heavily invested on defense. Really, he even glosses over Jaden Jackson and Stone. And look, we didn't talk about the other freshmen today so much, but you got PJ Adebawari from last year, who's starting to look like he gets it. He looks like the dude. You've got guys like, you still got guys coming back. Ethan Downs he looks better all the time, and he's a monster. Grayson Halton, G-Baby, looked very, very good. Another younger guy. And then you may end up getting Dominic Williams. You already brought in another guy that's been pretty good in his time at Louisville and Arizona State. Devon Sears looks like he is on another level. DJ Terry looks like he's on another level, has already played in the SEC. He knows what it means to be an SEC defensive line guy. Then you got Nigel Smith. Nobody's really talking a whole lot about him. Then you got Danny Okoye. These guys are blue chip baller types that, could do very good things. What I've seen out of Taylor Wine makes me feel really good. Another second-year player on the other side. Now, obviously, Ethan Downs is going to be an important piece to that. PJ Adebawari is going to be an important piece to that. But you've heard Trace Ford talking about finally being healthy. When Trace Ford's healthy, he gets to the quarterback. Danny Okoye is explosive, a different animal. This line of scrimmage that Barry said that they're not very good on, I don't know what the hell he's looking at. Now, I think that part of what Barry Trammell says and doesn't, no, he didn't lose his newspaper gig. No. Look, and this is what Hank is talking about. Following the popular narrative, and no, Oklahoma fans don't forget. But here's what I would tell you as a journalist myself. Columnists are not there to sunshine pump. They are absolutely, if anything, first off, you got to, as an actual journalist, you work at a newspaper, news agency, or whatever. It's always about being completely neutral. Okay? The press box is not a place that anybody is allowed to cheer. It's not allowed. Okay? And as a columnist, your job is to provoke thought and sometimes controversy. Call it old school clickbait. Okay? He's got to err on the side of critical, not ever on the side of, unless they win a natty, you're probably not going to get that out of most columnists anywhere, including Barry. Now, that doesn't mean what he said was right. It doesn't mean what he said was right. Doesn't mean that when we see stuff out of Jeannie Carlson that she's always right. But as columnists, their job is to form an opinion, for it to be something that you have to think about, and then they have to, obviously I think you need to do a better job than what I saw him do of backing that opinion up. And I think that Barry Trammell has been pretty good. But this is just the way columnists are. Now, did he get it all stirred up? Yes, he did. And there are fans in this day of social media, Oklahoma fans don't like that shit. And they're going to let you know. And then you got these little OU insider twerps that want to go after a fan that has a problem with it. So I got in the middle of it. And I shouldn't have, but I did. And I don't feel bad, not one bit, about what I said to or about Parker Thune, just so everybody understands that. Don't feel bad about it. I don't necessarily agree with the first thing as far as I didn't agree I don't agree all the way with Barry Trammell, but I didn't agree necessarily with what Parker was referring to. But I thought for him to tell anybody or call anybody a sunshine pumper or tell anybody what to think or not to have an opinion was laughable at best. Hello, pot. This is the kettle. Give me a freaking break, PT. Give me a freaking break. I don't want to hear that shit. Now, again, that's about the last I'm going to say of that. But in the end, I want everybody to understand that, yeah, Barry he takes a bad look here. But you got to, I mean, I think that he's definitely, the longer he's been doing this, he's certainly taken a more cynical view of Oklahoma football. I don't think he's disrespecting. I think that he's erring on the side of them not winning it. And how hard it is, and hearing everybody in the SEC, if he comes out and he is Mr. championing Oklahoma is going to go run through this conference, then he looks really stupid to his colleagues all around the country. So, anyway. Hey, Sheila. Yeah, I said all I really need to say. Yeah, nobody will ever yell at Barry Trammell that he's a man, he's 40. Yeah, I tend to believe that Mike probably wouldn't have done that shit either to Barry Trammell. Mediocre Mike. Yeah, Hank, I think this is a good description. I mean, he's definitely turned a little crotchety and, cynical when it comes to that. But again, like I said, if you start being that guy, that columnist out there that's always just sunshine and rainbows kind of stuff, which, I mean, it's easier for us to do that as just YouTube guys. I'm not doing this for a newspaper or anything like that anymore. It's my own company. I can be real about it. But I feel like I actually look at the entirety of the whole thing. I have a hard time. I don't know what he sees. I mean, I just rattled off a bunch of guys that tells me they're going to be very good on the interior. And when it comes to the offensive line, I'm going to say this one more time. It's a new offensive line, not a bad one. It's new. Not bad. Bill Bedenbaugh is the best in the country at what he does. Another first rounder this weekend, another winner for the weekend, Bill Bedenbaugh. It just blows me away that that's the narrative out there. A lot of things are going to have to go well for Texas to do what everybody's talking about them doing, going 12-0. Are you shitting me? No way. No way. I'd bet any amount of money on that. Look, again, I said, call it old school clickbait. I've been around and in newspapers for 20 years. This their job. Okay. And again, I'm not taking up for Barry so much because I don't agree with him. And I also believe that, some guy got really pissy at me about, it was Worsley that said what he said, but he got mad at me for going at Parker for talking his ish. But he made it like I was going at Barry, and I wasn't. I didn't weigh in on what I felt about it. And I told him, I said, look, I think that Barry Trammell should have thick enough skin to deal with this or not be on Twitter. But this isn't the first column he's written that's pissed off the fan base. It happens quite often, at least once a year. Time to finish the yard. All right, Hankster, I'm out of here too. Yeah. Always thought that he was giving him a bit too much respect. Okay, yeah. Look, I think that, again, I respect Barry. I respect Barry Trammell. I don't, but respect and agreement is different things. And this is what we do. This is what writers and influencers, content creators at this point. Not everybody comes from that background. Some do, some don't. But it all is kind of melding into one thing at this point, right? And I'm not one of those people that thinks that you've got to have a background in this or that to have a YouTube channel and have a successful one. I don't think you do. I have that background, but I don't care. I've told you guys I don't care anything about breaking news stories either. Doesn't matter to me anymore. That I didn't very much. It hardly ever did matter to me. Hardly ever mattered. But I do believe that some of these guys. Yeah. He's definitely one of the guys that's been around for a long time, Neilio, and he deserves a level of respect. But that doesn't mean that he is the all-knowing grand poobah of freaking Big 12 or SEC football or whatever. You've seen a lot of that with, he knows, and the reason that he knows Paul Feinbaum is because Paul Feinbaum was in newspapers for 30 years. He had his radio show, but that only got really popular over the last 10, 12, 15 years, right? Or nationally popular where it got picked up. So it is what it is. Yeah, I can't put that on the screen rhyming. That's hilarious, but Justin went to the Huskies. Huh? Justin? Justin who? Who are we talking about here? We got another portal deal. Oh, yeah. Justin Harrington to Washington. Good for Justin, man. It just hit 12 minutes ago on 3. Justin Harrington to Washington. Good for him. Excited for him. He gets to play in a power conference. I would think that he is an immediate starter for sure there, or else they wouldn't have gotten him. I think that's a good landing spot. As we know, they got a good coach to come in and replace Kalen DeBoer. I think that Washington is going to bounce back. Probably not this season, but pretty quick. He can be a big part of that, and it's a defensive league in the Big 10. Definitely a defensive league out there. You don't have a bunch of those kind of. I think it's a good Harrington. I think that's a good transfer for him. Hey, Adela, what's up? What's up? All right, guys, been going for a little over an hour. Appreciate everybody coming in here. Make sure that you jump back on tonight for our live stream. Hopefully, I got the coach with me. I got to get with him, and I mean, he's been busy lately, but hopefully we get him in. I'd like to talk a little bit about what's been going on at Notre Dame, where they are at the moment as well. We've been wanting to kind of compare and where I think that there's a lot of similarities between the programs right now as far as where they are and the trajectory that they're on, coaching staffs that have been there about the same amount of time. Really a lot of the same questions, aside from, playing in conference or whatever. But I think that Notre Dame is one of those teams that looks really good going into the season. If they get what they need out of Riley Leonard and also having a new offensive coordinator that knows what he's doing, I think that they could be a surprise team. I'd love to hear what Coach has to say about it. But yeah, hey, thank you, Neilio. I appreciate you coming in. We'll see you tonight. Good to talk to everybody as well. Adela, thanks for coming in. Make sure you show back up here tonight. Mars Jams, Ryman Lemon, thanks for coming in. Neilio, of course, Hankster. Who else do we have come in? Sheila Smith. We had Esther was in here a little bit earlier. Bishop Frank, thank you as always for coming in. Kimberly K, thanks for coming in. And it's been a while since we've seen you. So happy to see you again. Kyle, that's our boy, Kyle Dupuis. JB, Weston Sloan. Yep. Hey, I think I got pretty much everybody there. Oh, Sooner Legend Podcast. And Kim Hurst was in here as well. Good to see all the Hall of Fame Mafia guys. Greg Hollert, Good to see you as well. Thanks a lot again, guys, for everybody coming in. We will see you all. Hey, make sure you jump over, check out our sponsors that take care of the show. Help us take care of them. If you're not already a member of the Hall of Fame Mafia, it would be great for you to become one as well. That's as low as $2.99 a month. Thank you again. This is the 9th month for Bishop Frank to become one of the members there. Love having him and all you guys as a part of this audience. We appreciate that a bunch. Check out our new show merchandise. There's a lot of new stuff in there. hofmedia.us/pod-merch. I'm telling you right now, I love Mint Mobile. 15 freaking bucks a month. The first 3 months for $45. You can do it all online on the largest 5G network in the country. And guess what? You can actually go on there and keep your service that you have with Big Wireless for now. Try it out on the same phone that you have. You can switch out. That way you know for sure that you can trust it. I only kept Verizon for a month because of how expensive it's gotten. It's such a great deal. You're on the largest 5G network in the country. It helps the show, but you're going to help your pocketbook. Between my phone and my mother's, I was paying over $200 a month. Okay. Now I'm paying, even after that third month, I'll be paying $60. That's $140 I'm going to save for those two phones. It's absolutely unlimited talk, text, and data. $45 for the first 3 months. Try mintmobile.com/HOF. Check out our performance golf apparel line as well at Melreg Performance Golf Apparel. Partner website there as well, melreg.com/JW_HOF at the top there. Check it out, guys. I mean, I've had that stuff. I've got a few of those shirts. The shorts, they're unbelievably comfortable. Even if you're not a golfer, good stuff for the summertime. You might like it. Not everything's as flashy as the stuff you're seeing up there. But they've got a lot of really nice stuff. Great, comfortable gear. Go check it all out. Thanks again, everybody, for coming in. Had to throw that in there at the end. Make sure you hit that like button on the way out. We'll see you on the next one.